Skydiving, a sport practiced by almost 1 million people worldwide every year. With each jump, the skydiver challenges common sense and gravity to experience a few seconds of what it's like to fly. Often falling at speeds over 200 miles an hour, the parachutist depends on his wits and a sheet of nylon to cheat death. As Mike Vederman knows, sometimes those things aren't enough.
I'm not doing this as a death-defying sport or anything like that. In fact, it makes me appreciate life a lot more because it's so beautiful. I want to keep skydiving. Every skydiver wants to keep skydiving. There's just something that feels absolutely right and natural.
Mike is an experienced skydiver and a software engineer. In August 1997, he attended the World Freefall Convention at the Municipal Airport in Quincy, Illinois. The 10-day event attracts over 4,000 jumpers every year. It's renowned for its free-spirited atmosphere and unorthodox jumps.
People are doing naked jumps all over the place, off the helicopters out of the 727 jumbo jet, constant planes coming and going. I call it the skydiving Woodstock.
Mike made his first jump at the convention with a group in an inflatable raft. He videotaped the dive with a camera strapped to his helmet. Typically, the more experimental the jump, the greater the risk. This one did not go entirely as planned.
The raft just deflated and it just crumpled up and there were bodies everywhere and I was just like, they're all above me, this raft is above me, let me get out of here. But it was still a lot of fun.
The next morning, Mike decided to try a jump with two people he'd met only the day before, Al and Lucia.
Al was coming in and he was geeking the camera, but he was kind of sliding backwards and I can remember thinking to myself, uh-oh, he's going to hit Lucia.
After a narrow miss and a safe landing, Mike breathed a sigh of relief. He had averted disaster a second time. He didn't question whether his luck would hold when he decided to try another jump with Lucia and Al the same day. That afternoon, their plane climbed to approximately 13,000 feet. There were about 25 passengers on board. Mike, Lucia, and Al were one of the first groups out of the plane. Mike videotaped the others making mid-air maneuvers and mugging for the camera. Thousands of feet above them, another group leapt from the plane. At 2,500 feet, Mike's group released their chutes, but as they floated down to Earth, Mike made a critical mistake. He decided to make a 90-degree turn without checking to see if anyone was above him.
It wasn't a radical turn. I didn't pull my toggles down real hard. It was just a set-up type turn. But part of turning also dives your canopy. The canopy itself will dive down like that. And that probably obscured my vision.
Mike completed his turn and straightened out, just in time to see another diver bearing down on him from above. Before he could react, his parachute or canopy tangled around the other man.
My canopy, 2/3 of it was wrapped around his legs and midsection, but it wasn't wrapped so badly. Once I flung back around, pretty much was released from him.
But his canopy had collapsed. Mike instinctively brought his knees towards his chest and plunged to the concrete almost 100 feet below. His knees struck the ground first, followed by his head. Many witnesses heard the awful sound of Mike's body hitting the runway.
Actually, I felt the ground move, and I was a good 100, maybe 150 feet away from him. I heard people say something sounded like a sack of potatoes when it fell, and as morbid as that may sound, that's exactly what it sounded like.
His face was pretty much bloody. We couldn't really see anything else except for injuries. His legs were definitely broken. I know we knew that there was an arm fracture. That's all you could really see to begin with.
The paramedics who were stationed just 100 feet away struggled to establish an airway for Mike. He was barely breathing due to the blood, bone, and teeth which filled his mouth and throat. They rushed him to nearby Blessing Hospital in Quincy. and alerted the emergency room to expect a trauma 1, the most severe trauma.
You couldn't see his mouth or face. It was just covered with blood. He had obvious injuries to his legs. He had both femurs that were exposed. I remember him rolling into the room, and he had a 3-inch section of bone that just fell off the gurney onto the floor. So he had some obvious injuries and not so obvious injuries.
Mike was wheeled into the OR by a team of trauma surgeons and specialists. They operated late into the night. By morning, Mike had made an amazing turnaround. His condition had stabilized, though his injuries were extensive. Mike lost 10 pints of blood and 18 teeth, crushed his knees and face, and shattered the bones in both his arms and legs. Remarkably, though, he suffered no internal injuries to his organs. Mike remained in the hospital for 2 weeks before being transported to another one near his home in Houston, Texas. Since arriving back in Houston, he has undergone more than 14 surgeries and suffered through months of physical rehabilitation. Today, Mike has almost no memory of the accident. He is making a slow return to skydiving.
I could never give it up because of all the people. You know, you got the family you're born with, and then you've got your chosen family, the people that you like to hang around with and you share the most in common with. And I'm very lucky to be alive to enjoy their company.
How did Mike Vederman survive a 100-foot freefall to Earth without a parachute? The majority of skydiving deaths and injuries are due to blunt force trauma to the head or other internal organs. Physicist and occasional skydiver Angela Olinto believes that Mike's mid-air body adjustment to fall feet first and protect his head was a critical factor.
He had time to do some change in body position as the shock was being absorbed, gave him more chances to survive.
The quick response of the on-site and emergency room medical teams also helped keep him alive. But Mike himself feels certain that dumb luck played a part as well. The slightest variation in the way he hit the ground could have killed him instantly. Mike says he has always led a charmed life.
I'm Jewish. My Hebrew name is Baruch Chaim, which translated into English means blessed life. And so if I want to go way back, my parents saved my life by naming me Blessed Life. They saved my life a long time ago.
The urge to explain life's unexpected outcomes is rooted in the human need for stability and the desire to make of one's life a seamless story. As much as people like Mike Vederman may wish to attribute their survival to mystical forces like a divine presence or fate, experts say there is always a rational explanation.
Mathematics is kind of our ultimate reality principle. It's our ultimate connection to the real world. And if we ignore magnitudes and probabilities, we do so at our peril, and we kind of, in some sense, become less human.
The fact that human life is finite gives it meaning. As sure as we are born, we will die. Occasionally, however, one arrives at a crossroad where death appears imminent and yet somehow manages to survive. On the surface, it may look like nothing more than luck, but there are many intersecting factors at work. Choice, skill, strength of body and spirit all play a hand in determining whether and when one will cheat death.